So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. Then we find a layer of understanding related with the spring feast, autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. And then obviously the world is adjusting itself from the time of the 1,000 years of deceit and back onto the schedule of the Creator, where we find then obviously the cities returning and then the world once again being in line with the Messiah and his holy tabernacle. There was then an article posted some time ago, a few days in fact, where then the Homeland Security has then placed a halt in the transfers of the Bitcoin system, and then by doing this it truly shows then the inability of this government of making decisions. Why can a person then come to this conclusion? Obviously the new system coming of the Chinese incorporates both of the systems of banking, government, regulation, of a paper money system, would be comparable with our then USD, but then the yuan or the Chinese monetary system is mixed with a virtual system where there is no linking with the government, no linking with the bank. So then, from what the government has done, it shows very clearly the inability of making decisions, and it shows precisely then what President Jackson said when he was president of this country many decades ago. He said, be aware when the government turns to itself and becomes larger than it should have. If we read the writings of President Jackson, we are during these times as if he was predicting in the future the monstrosity of the government and its inability of then thinking lean while then respecting the growth of the economy, but rather we find then this government out of control, spending 4 times what we then earn, and then proven to the Asian market the naive side of our government, because rather than making an adaptation, a sign of maturity of this government would then provide this Bitcoin system an adaptation, not a halting of the system. The very fact the government going against the system, it shows the ignorance of this government before this new way of monetary system and its market. So let's try to understand then, when the Chinese system comes, what kind of monetary system is going to be used. It is a virtual system related with production. So then, thus we find our country, rather than working along with it, they have this concept of trying to put under the control when they can't. Typical of monstrosity governments, where they get so big, and the more larger the governments become, then the worse decisions they make. So rather than showing our government mature, they have proven themselves ignorant, because precisely a virtual monetary system is coming in a very near future, where then the Chinese simply already has this system. They have these in a form of computerized program, where then when the time comes, then they make it available for the rest of the world. So let me ask you this: can the government place a control on the Bitcoin system worldwide? No, the government can't. it shows you the inability of providing then a system under the control, because this time of the end is taking away this power from governments, where then the freighters of our country will then provide the proper delivery of parcels while making direct trade with the population of the world. So then what our government thought was a victory, it became an absolute shame. Because not only the new monetary system comes, but it comes in a form where the very act of this government going against it is precisely the new system taken over. And there is no way of going around, because the Chinese yuan, it is a camouflaged system. So let's try to understand this. You have, for instance, the Chinese yuan, then you have the Bitcoin system. The last exchange roughly was 120 plus for each bit. So you can imagine then the yuan have a certain value. You understand the yuan has a backing also from gold, obviously. But then you have also the yuan as a virtual monetary system with a specific value, not only backed up by gold and the existing regulation of a monetary system, paper money, but then they have a mixture with gold and mixture with the production line. Our government doesn't understand the camouflaged part of this monetary system. So then by going against it rather than adapting it, the government has revealed its inability of making decisions. So based from this particular point, we understand then the military making the same bad decisions, because government and military, they go hand in hand. So as far as the government and monetary system and economy, when they make wrong decisions, the military obviously makes the same wrong decisions. So we have a monstrosity of a system. They are not concerned with the economy of our country. They are not leaning up as they should have. They are spending 4 times more than we are earning. And the government itself has become a danger to this country. We think of a country trying to govern itself. But when the government does not lean during the time of crisis, it shows the dangerous part of a government not able to make decisions. So then not only this, we find then the Chinese government going around the world making more deals, because during this time there is already an uploaded system in the computer. So let's try and repeat these very clearly. During this time of this last period of time of the 1,000 years of the seat ended in 09. But while this transition then is completing itself, we find then these last deals prior of the coming of the system shows us that there is already an uploaded system waiting to be released. So we are so far behind in our projections, in our economy, decision making, military. The whole planning section of our country is absolutely defective. What people, for instance, from Asia would expect of our country was then an adaptation of the monetary virtual system. By trying to control it, we have shown an absolutely failed government. So then there are a few options. Either let this government goes to ruin and then going to the Ozarks in the center of US, where the 72,000 squares building is there, built with stolen money from the government. Or the second option is then generating a USDV, would be a Bitcoin system not related with the central bank and government regulation, precisely as Bitcoin system is. Where then, while there is a validity to our monetary system, USD, we would be making transfers or purchasing of these USDVs and maintaining the value of our money. Let's say, for instance, we would take the average price of the gold of China, because the new trade system adjusts itself by the Chinese government. We would understand the average of the price, would adapt it to our standards, where then with this new USDV based from the average of China, we would create USDV. Would be similarly as you have a Bitcoin, but with a certain value. Then our country would purchase these and start storing for themselves, while our USD is yet valid. Because the wealth of this country, when our monetary system goes down, and it is predicted for the next 36 months, then people won't have an active system to make transfer with. So this time, we should have had this USDV, or then an adaptation of this Bitcoin as an USDV. So people then can transfer their funding and being prepared when the Chinese system becomes available. But then rather we find the government tries then to control it, absolutely showing its inability of making decisions. Not only this, but our government is 4 times spending more than earning. We find this government not leaning up as they should have. So if you were talking of 100% of expenses, it would be yet a high number, but we would have hope, but we have 4 times. There is no way of recuperating this country. So why lie to the people and giving false hopes for? So then the minimum this government could do was leaning up, creating USDV where people can do their transfers, and then revitalize our industry in making as the Chinese with their monetary market backed up by production. So it doesn't stop there. The Chinese leader is in many of the countries of Central America making deals. But then he did not go to Cuba. Mr. Xi did not go then to Cuba. There was another authority from China that went to Cuba because he has military experience. So then you can understand the inability of our government of making decisions of the economy and making decisions also related with the military. We are wasting our time, for instance, in Singapore and trying to show ourselves doing military maneuvers, and we don't understand what's going on then with the socialism around the world. We are not promoting people of becoming more educated understanding the economy, understanding the virtual markets, understanding then the movements of these BRIC countries, making deals and being participants. We are trying to show ourselves, yet trying to take control over it. And it's not going to work. Not this time. And some say, "May, what is the reason?" It's because we are on a holy schedule, and this time is going to be then obviously the BRICS countries leading the market. And this ultimately leads, obviously, of a new monetary system, precisely the system where then the Homeland Security decided to go against it. So it shows then its monstrosity against a problem where they can't control. If a person does not have the way of doing transfer in this country, they can simply transfer the fund into another country where they have friends, and they can do the transfer there and then returns, so they can use it. So there is no way of placing this system under the control other than of making adaptation. But rather than doing this, then our government decides then to try to control. It never works. So let's make sure we understand the yuan from China has both systems at the same time. They have the monetary system via paper money, government regulated, involved with bank. Then they have the virtual system at the same time. It would be a combination of USD and Bitcoin, but our government doesn't understand. They don't understand the importance of having a system outside of the government's control. But the advantage of China is they have direct trade. They can do both. It's absolutely genius. And if we compare our system with China's, ours is from the time of the caveman. If there was such, but it's, nice, it fits. So when you begin to understand a camouflaged system where you are dealing with USD and Bitcoin at the same time, then you understand what the new system is bringing. So then please stay tuned, much more coming up.